So the theme of our training today is going to be mastering our scripts. So throughout the whole buying process, from our voicemails to the way we answer the phone to how we handle the incoming call, the upfront contracts, how to do a post sale, answering specific questions that we often get. We often can have a common script or a common answer to a lot of this, where it's not like we're talking to the same person over and over and over and we have to like restructure our answers. So if we can be prepared in advance for common situations that we know that we're going to face through the whole buying process, we should be able to practice on our own or with our partner or in a group how we're going to respond and handle different situations. So we're going to kind of talk about that. Some of the items we're going to talk about, I have already trained on. I'm not going to be going in depth on a lot of these items, but I'm going to provide you guys links within this presentation where you can go back and look at trainings that Michael and I have done, specifically on the upfront contract. We're going to lightly talk about that, but we've done a whole presentation on the importance and how to handle an upfront contract. So keep that in mind. You might have heard some stuff already, but I'm not going to go in depth on it. One thing that we are going to go in depth on is where we're often asked, what's our process? What do we do? Who are we? And I want to dig deep on that and really dial in how we respond to that question. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to share my screen and go over a few things here. There we go. All right, can everyone see my slideshow? Okay. So I'm kind of going to start from the very beginning of the buying process. And the first thing, so we're going to talk about upfront contract, who we are, some post sale, and a whole bunch of other scripts here. But the first thing is our voicemail. You know, we've talked about this in the past and the importance of having a proper voicemail. But I just have this link here that you guys can listen to it here. I am going to play it. I think it's important that you guys listen to your own voicemail or have someone else listen to it, or let Michael and I call you to see what your voicemail says. But I'm going to play this real quick here so you guys can hear a sample of a voicemail.
Hello, you've reached Hayden with Homevestors, the We Buy Ugly Houses people, as well as AZ listing team. Please leave me a detailed message and the address of the property you wanting to sell. Thank you.
Were you guys able to hear that?
Hello, you've reached Hayden with Homevestors, the We Buy Ugly Houses.
Were you able to hear that? Okay, good. Screen here. So I think it's important that we have the right voicemail set up. You know exactly what you're saying. You're in a spot that it's clear and the caller can understand it. But what I like about this setup of the voicemail is we're asking for them to leave the voicemail, their address. So it's a call to action for in case we do miss a buy call, that at least we get their address. So Michael and I are more than happy to listen to your voicemail to give you any guidance there. We've talked about this in the past, maybe for some of the new people here. Over the phone, don't we often get some obstacles over the phone? And what are some obstacles that we often get asked immediately over the phone? Anyone have any examples you can share with us?
How do you work? How does this work?
Yeah, that's very common.
How much will you pay me
Anything
for?
else? Okay. And
You said you wanted to buy my house. I want $1 million for it.
Can I speak to Jennifer?
Great. So I've done training on this, but I wanted to provide a snapshot here that you can go to. It's important that we validate them, that we heard their question. And so as in Sandler, we have a softening statements and then we reverse them. So I feel like that this response here is a response that we go to with any obstacle, any question we get asked, because we know the importance, right? We know the importance that they're going to ask us a question for us to not answer it over the phone, correct? Because we know if we answer it, we can answer it wrong. We say something wrong, we offend them, we give them the wrong answer. We don't know why they asked the question. So if you can just have this as your go-to script, say, hey, great question. I get that asked a lot. That's one of the first questions people ask me. Sounds important to you, right? Those are all softening statements. And I let them know, hey, I heard you. Let me write that down to make sure I can answer that question for you. But first, can I ask you a few questions in advance? I can't tell you how many times I personally say that over the initial call, and they say, no problem. And I can get them back to my buy script, right? And ask them what's truly important. Their name, their number, their address, how they hear about us. And then often they forget about what their first question was, okay? So I think this is a great script to practice, to get comfortable with, and have it as your go-to script for any obstacles. You guys have any questions regarding this topic?
No, but I can definitely say, since you taught me this, Ryan, this has been a huge game changer in my phone calls and just getting right to the point. I used to find when I started, I was probably spending 15, 20 minutes on the phone with people, and now I spend less than like 5, and I get the appointment and just go because of this.
Okay. So in the very beginning, what were you doing before you learned this?
Spilling my candy in the lobby.
And spilling your candy means what? Because that is a Sandler term that maybe many don't know what that means.
Just trying to answer all their questions and tell them how great I am, and how we can solve all their problems in some sense, for lack of better words, without just really, we have no rapport with people when they call over the phone. They don't know who you are. They don't trust you in any aspect. So it's just wasting your time trying to sell them anything other than just, make them feel comfortable, and then get them to let you set the appointment where you can come out and meet them in person and actually get down to the issues and how you can help them. So.
Yeah, so I mean, it's such a great rule. I think it's like rule number 2. Like, our candy is our knowledge, our expertise, and all of a sudden we just walk in the lobby and we just spill it all, right? And we don't know what the seller really needs from us. So I'm glad that you've been using this. It's been beneficial for a lot of other people too. So good. Okay. Now, who gets this question asked a lot? Do you ever get this question asked over the phone?
Every time.
Yep.
Okay, so why are people asking this over the phone?
I don't really get the who are you, but always, how does this work? Or yeah. Or how much are you going to give me for my house? Like, one of those two is probably the most common for me.
Okay. And so someone willing to share what they say when they receive this question? Or let me ask it this way. What is the possible wrong way to answer this question? If someone's gonna do it incorrectly, what do you think that would sound like?
We close quick, we pay cash, we take care of everything. You don't have to worry about any repairs. We're the best, we're the biggest. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, so I know that at SST training, the 5 script that we've got from corporate often talks about our features and benefits, right? I have listened to a lot of your guys' buy calls, and I'm surprised how many times I'm hearing people talk about how we're number one home buyer. We buy as is, we pay cash, we can close quick. So what is the fault? Like, why should we not be doing that when people ask us who we are or what our
I think
process is?
I think it's better for them to tell us why they're looking for someone like us. Obviously, they're reaching out for some sort of reason, and for us to just vomit everything that we can offer, they're probably looking for just one of those things that's important to them, and giving them that opportunity to tell us why they're calling us and why they would even be reaching out to a company like Homevestors, gives us that opportunity to dig into their situation.
And anyone else?
So those of you that went to Sandler, did he give you homework to come up with softening statements and reverses for questions? So I'd hope that at least a half a dozen of you would have some of those ready to go.
Yeah, we certainly did talk about having softening statements and reversing, and I do have a kind of a light slide on that. So yeah, that's important to make sure how we handle it correctly. But so when we start talking about our features and benefits, does our competition have the same features and benefits as we do? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we really bragging about? Like, we pay cash. Like, how are we different than our competition, right? Everyone's saying that. Buy the house as is. Like, what do you do, right? We can close quick on their time frame. I mean, every investor, every competitor is doing the exact same thing. Now, when we start talking about we're America's number one home buyer and we do this and that, what are we conveying to the seller?
Seems a little desperate.
And we're like trying to fight our way into the house, right? I mean, I think that we're kind of bragging, right?
Yeah.
So this might sound elementary stuff not to do, but I've listened to your guys' buy calls and I'm hearing it over the phone. Like, I'm hearing it. And I think what happens is that we're getting nervous. We're not prepared for that question. We all will sit here and agree that that's probably the number one question that we get. And if we know that, practice how we're going to respond, and we're going to talk about that. But if you catch yourself over the phone, you catch yourself on the buy appointment prior to getting a firm yes or no, if you're talking about our features and benefits, you're going about it all wrong. Now, it is important to share some of our features and benefits, but you got to do it in the correct process, in the correct way. So you guys mentioned that, you know, we don't know their motivation, right? We don't know why they're calling us. We don't know why that question was important to them. And as in Sandler, we learned the +3 rule, right? We want to get down to the real root of why they asked that question. And so study Sandler rule number 2, learn about the importance of not spilling your candy in the lobby. So, you know, we make the mistake that we're trying to build up our credibility. We're trying to tell them about us, but it's not about us. It's not about you. You know, people don't care about how many houses we bought. They don't care about how long we've been doing this for, right? We need to understand that it's about them. What do they need? So we want to make our answers about them and what they get out of our expertise and services. So what's the benefit from us doing our features and benefits? So if we can change our mindset to how is this going to benefit them, then this is going to change the dynamics of it all. So I'm going to share my screen here with you guys again. So you guys have heard of the 30-second commercial, the elevator pitch? Now, that's often used of if we're going to maybe meet someone, maybe we're at a party, right? We come across someone, we want to, and they ask us, what do we do for work? But we can use the whole concept of an elevator pitch, 30-second commercial. So what I feel like answering the question, what's your process? Who are you? What do you guys do? So this is from Sandler. This is kind of their outline here. And so this is the concept is when someone asks us who we are, this is the outline on how we should respond, okay? So step one is we have an opening statement. We tell them maybe who we are, the name of our company, but we want to keep it simple, not simply. We want to keep it simple and quick. So the opening statement is going to just be a quick response. And the next step is what's called a positioning or framing statement. What type of company we are, what do we do is the next step. And the third step here is where we're gonna have a little discussion is what is the motivation? What motivation statements can we use? So let me ask you guys, and just to give a little background here, Homevestors and Sandler with Homevestors, we're not gonna be using the word pain anymore. So we're going to be using what's their motivation. So let me ask you, what are some reasons or what is a seller's motivation to call us or to use us?
Foreclosure, death, going into assisted living, house needs too much repair, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Convenience. I've got a guy now. I don't even care if I take a $50,000 hit. It's just the convenience of being able to walk away. I said, okay.
So those are all 8 perfect answers, and there's probably 20 more reasons why people call us. But what's important here is we need to, if we're talking with a seller, either over the phone or in person, and we gather some motivation steps, it's important to write those down to hear them. But if we don't know what their motivation is, and someone asks us, what do we do? You need to have a list of 3 common reasons why people want to use us. And so we're going to talk about that here next. But the motivation statements are a list of reasons why people will use us. Okay. And the next slide here is the 4th step is what's the benefit? What is the benefit on why they should use us? What makes us different? And how are we going to solve their problem? So that's step 4. And step 5 of our response is what's called a hook question. This is where we hook them, that we don't assume something that they have the problem that we listed above. Instead, we say comments like, these are probably not happening to you. I don't suppose that you are experiencing any of these. I don't know if these are relevant to you. Probably not the case. I assume these don't apply to you. And then we can ask them, is it worthy for us to have a further conversation? So this is the outline of our response. Now, real life here, this is a little bit of a quick response that we can work on in our own conversation, in our own way that we communicate. So, so what's the first part there, right? This is step 1 and step 2. Hey, I'm Ryan with Homevestors. I own a franchise here in Phoenix, and we buy houses from homeowners who maybe need. And this is 1, 2, and 3. These are the motivations that we gather from either conversation or from a common motivation that everybody has. Okay. And then here's step 4 is we're able to help them by providing sellers a firm cash offer. So we're letting them know what the benefit is to them And then we have the hook here at the very end. Okay.
But the only thing you are kind of missing those motivating terms on 1, 2, and 3. So normally we would add something like, we work with people who are frustrated with tenant issues, or they're concerned about the length of time that it's going to take for a retail sale, or they're worried that they don't have the money to do repairs. So those concerned, frustrated, anxious, worried, we want to try to incorporate those into those 3 things and have them match, right? You're not going to be frustrated with not having money as much as you're going to be worried about not having money. You're going to be frustrated with tenants less than you're going to be worried about tenants, unless you're worried about tenants trashing your place, right? But that's not one we would use. So have the motivating statements match the thing that we generally are working with people. Again, in Sandler, that was one of the homeworks, was to, what are the things we provide, and what are those motivating hooks that we can put in there. So that's the only thing that might be missing, Ryan, from that statement you had there.
Yeah, so on the outline here, I wrote that in. So we're going to talk about that. So sorry about that. So it's important, as Michael says, that it says there to use emotional words, right? So my 3 motivations were just topics, but you need to incorporate that, as Michael says, to use emotional words to them. You're probably frustrated because the realtor hasn't sold your house. You're maybe anxious because you might lose your money. So it's important to use emotional words when you let them know what the reasons why people use us. That's a very good point. So
I mean, if we think about the top 3 reasons, foreclosure comes up, but it's not huge, right? And so we deal with a lot of tenant issues, we deal with a lot of repair issues, and then we deal with a lot of timing, ease of use. Can't remember the term that Melissa just used, but something that has to do with speed, right? So if we agree that those are the top 3, or maybe we come up with the top 5, probably wouldn't use death or inheritance, maybe, but that's not a primary one for us. So if you're going to lead, you want to lead with the ones that are the top 3, and that's something that we could and should be able to agree at some point. If somebody has one that they think is more compelling than those 3, I think those are typically the 3 that I use or have used the most in the past.
Good. So who here uses this type of response when someone asks us, what's our process? Does anyone?
I did about half the time, and I think you guys have heard my entry. My opening statement is, hey, I'm with HomeVestors. I'm a local franchise owner here. We're a discount or wholesale buyer. That just means I need to buy a house at a number that allows me to make a profit. Tell me a little bit about your house or situation, what's going on. And that's my pitch. It takes 15 seconds. I say house or situation, whichever one is meaningful to them, they'll start talking about them. I want to shift the focus to them, not to me. But I do get a quick discount statement in there. I do tell them I'm local. I'm part of a larger organization. So it kind of gets all the things out of the way. If they come back with a question or don't just freely start talking, then I lead into my top 3. And my top 3, again, end up being repairs, tenant issues, or speed, not having time to do with whatever they want to do. So that's been my approach.
Lamar, I bet you use this. Oh, your speaker's not on yet. All right, we'll see if he comes back.
He ran away.
I don't think he has a speaker on. Sorry, Lamar, we can't hear you. So yeah, the key thing is to understand the concept that when someone asks what our process is, that you're not just giving them our features and benefits. It's about saying that I'm a local home buyer, and we work with sellers, or we help sellers, or sellers appreciate working with us, right? That's the second point. Does that make sense? So sellers work with us, they appreciate working with us. We help sellers out who are often dealing with, maybe they're moving out of state and they need to sell the house quickly. Maybe a seller is about to lose their house to foreclosure and they don't want to lose the equity, and they're worried that they're going to not get the equity from the house. We often work with investors who are just fed up, frustrated, tired of working and collecting rent. The tenant's not paying. They're worried about the house being destroyed. And so we help these sellers out. We provide a solution. We'll pay cash. We can close quick. And so these are the people that, this is what we do. Probably not the case with you. Not sure if it is or not. So you can put it into your own world, but the motivation statements of what you say, it's a third party. It's a third party story. You're talking about what other sellers are dealing with, right? And you're having assumptions. And what are they going to do after you give them 2 or 3 motivation statements? What is their response going to be if you give 3 common statements? What's the 2 options?
They usually just say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going through, or no, this is what's actually happening to me. That's been my experience.
Exactly. So, you know, no one wants to be told that they're going to lose their house, but they're going to appreciate that we work with other people going through this process. Okay. So we want to be invited out to their house. We talk about that when we show up at someone's house, we say, hey, thank you for inviting me out. If we're giving our features and benefits, what are we doing, right? We're like fighting for the appointments. We're desperate, as Amber said. So here, what happens here at the very end is that you provide that hook question. This is probably not happening to you. Is it worthy for us to have a further conversation? And they're going to tell you, yes, man, point number 2, exactly what I'm dealing with. Like, no, I'm not dealing with that. I'm selling for this reason. Okay, so do you mind if I can ask you a few more questions so I can better understand what's going on in your world? Okay, so we can get a lot further with this approach than just giving our features and benefits. Any questions regarding this? Does anyone want to role play and practice this? Who's willing to give an answer to what's our process? If not, I got to pick someone with the camera off. Steve, you're the guy.
Hey, sorry, I had to step out for a second. What was the question?
Do you mind role playing with us and
Sure.
give me a response on what our process is?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to work on who we are, quickly, kind of how it benefits them, why other people work with us, and then give them a hook question and see if you use some emotional words on your motivation statement.
Okay.
The 3 will use us. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. So I call you up and yeah, Steve, I'm just curious how you guys work, how this process works for you.
Yeah, I appreciate you seeing that, Ryan. Well, let me tell you a little bit about us. I work with HomeVestors. We're a home buying company. Typically, we work with sellers who need to move quickly or have a house that needs a lot of repair, or maybe just inherited the home and basically we're able to make them a nice firm cash offer that they can trust. No, I don't know if any of those apply to you. Would any of those work for
Great.
you?
That's good. That's great.
Yep.
Good. Thank you. Sam Jones, do you want to try it out?
Yeah,
Can you
let's do
throw-
it.
Can you throw in a few emotional words there on why sellers might use us?
Sure.
Yeah, Sam, I'm just curious, how do you work with your company?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I work with Homevestors. I'm a local guy here in Phoenix. We are discount home buyers, which means, you know, we buy homes at a discount at a number that makes sense for us so that we can fix them up and put them up on the market to sell. A lot of people call us because maybe they're concerned about the damage the tenants have done to their house, or they are trying to move out of state and get out of here quickly. They're anxious to move on, and they don't want to list it on the market, or maybe they're facing foreclosure. Those are probably not happening to you, probably don't apply to you. But tell me a little bit about your situation.
Man, nailed it, Sam. It's so natural the way it came out. Like, I don't feel like I was being sold. I feel like you heard me. It triggered things that's going on in my world. And then your ending was great, right? Tell me more. Great job.
Any suggestions on how to use those emotional words better, or in those the most common situations?
The best thing to do is to write them down and try them out loud. Honestly, it will feel right or it'll feel wrong when you say it. And if you say it and it feels wrong, you can't use it. So it needs to come out comfortable and natural. So I would write them down, say it. If it doesn't work, change either the situation or the emotional word, and then just try it again. Because there are dozens that feel very natural and comfortable. And once you got those, then it's just practice and using a couple of them here. Have them. We used to have note cards up hanging under the computer screen. So when somebody called in, if you were at the desk, you could just kind of read them right there off of the note card. So if you have 5 to 10 of them just written out and on a sticky note someplace, you can have them in your car on a card. But once you get just do it out loud with either, like Ryan said, a partner, another franchisee. If you can say it and it feels good, lock it down, write it down, laminate it, put it someplace that you can refer to it. If you want help, pull Ryan or me aside.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. I mean, it probably changes the way you're thinking. We're doing things opposite of our competition, which we know how important that is. So yeah, practice, get some note cards. I really do like it a lot. And sometimes you might know why they're calling you. Maybe it's a web lead and you notice the house is on the market, or maybe if you missed the call and you got a voicemail. There's sometimes through the call you pick up on something. Well, that should be one of your statements that you use, right? You notice the house on the market. You're like, oh, you know, we often work with people who have their house on the market. It's not selling. They're frustrated with their realtor. They don't like people come over to the house, and they just want a nice, easy cash sale. So you ad lib, you add stuff in based on what you might know, but you should have 1 to 4 that you just have in your back pocket. It's dialed in. You have the script down, and work on the hook question. That's tough for me, to be honest with you. I usually just kind of pass over that, but it's important to hook them because you need a response. I mean, it's kind of like going for the yes or no right away. Like, no, I'm not dealing with any of that stuff. I just want the highest offer, right? Or they'll tell you what it is, and it's a call to action. And then, you know, you ask them, well, do I have permission to ask you a few more questions? Okay. Again, be careful over the phone. Don't get too far. Make the appointment. But this is meant to kind of get you to the pain funnel, or at least know what their pain is. So you know when you're in person, you know how to take the pain funnel down too. Any questions on this topic?
You mean the motivation funnel?
Motivation funnel. Oh man. Does anyone else want to practice this? You don't want to step up on their own. I won't call anyone out, but if someone else wants to practice this in front of us, we can do it. All right, you chickens. Okay, good. Okay, now, sometimes we don't have to give that response. We can soften and reverse over the phone to find out exactly why they're calling. So someone might ask us, what's your purpose? Well, we have to remember that all sellers are calling for different reasons. Don't forget that. It's our job to find out why they're calling us. So here's a response that you can have when someone asks us, what do we do? Right? Hey, Susie, that's often the first question that I'm asked, but each person who chooses to help them has a different situation. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what you're hoping to accomplish? So put it into your own world. Hey, I appreciate you asking me. That's one of the first questions I'm ever asked. You know, people choose to use us for different reasons. Do you mind me asking, you know, why you're calling us? So that's where we soften them, we validate them, and reverse them. And they'll often tell us, well, I'm calling you for this reason. So, sorry. So do people use this?
When you guys were at Sandler, did Dave Hyatt use that first question, last answer? Did he share that one with you when you guys were talking about either the offer amount? Right, because people say, I want to know how much you can give me for the house. And so I reserve that. That's often the first question I'm asked. I reserve that specific line for a specific response to that specific question, which is, that's the first question most everyone asks me. Unfortunately, it's the last one that I can answer until I get some other information first. So I reserve that first question for that specific request from the client, just so you know. Dave Hyatt years ago said that just off the cuff, and we locked that in as, wow, this is a script that we can use. It's perfect for any of the questions that have to do with what's your offer, how much you're going to give me, you know, that kind of thing. And say that's the first question everyone wants to know. Unfortunately, it's the last question that I can answer until I get a little more information to understand what's going on, your situation, what you need, that kind of stuff. So I like to reserve that for that, just so you know.
Yeah, that's a great response, especially for the money question, right? Because it's an honest answer, right? We don't know what we can offer you until we know what's going on. Please share with me kind of what's going on in your world. Everyone calls me for a different reason. What is your reason? So you have to understand the concept of what the response is and just put it into your own words. But this is it right here is the mindset. The sellers are calling us for different reasons. It's our job to find out why they're calling us. So when they ask us, hey, what's your process? How do you work? Dial in a softening statement. Validate them. I hear you. Well, in order for me to give you the correct answer, I need to ask you more questions on why you're calling. Right? So wherever is comfort level for your response, that's the mindset that you should have.
Or is there something in the process that you're particularly concerned about? Is there something specific that you're hoping we can do? Let me know. Can you tell me what that is? Be very attentive to the question they're asking. Other than on the by phone call, right? I mean, we're a little talking about the by phone call here, but if we're just going to kind of let me write that down and I'll get back to it later. We're kind of validating, but in this case where you're doing a softening kind of reverse statement, be attentive of what they're saying. So when you respond, it is natural and it's not canned. So if they say, hey, I want to know, right, how quickly can you close, is going to be different than somebody says, tell me about your process, or, you know, are you a big company? All of the softening and reverse statements sounds like, you know, local company might be important to you. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Right. So speak to the question that they're asking in your reversing question.
Great. All right. So next topic here is I have a link in here to templates for text and email scripts. And Derek Williams out of Denver has done a great job. Him and I have a shared note that we have going back and forth, and we've dialed in some text and email scripts. So I want to give credit to Derek. But this link should be live here. Can you see that pop up? Or do you still see my PowerPoint?
We see the PowerPoint,
Just the power.
but you're going to send that out to everybody, right, Ryan?
And yeah.
Oh, there it goes.
So this will be in the link. You can click on it. So, I mean, he's done a great job with follow-up. You missed a call, a text message, another text message response, web lead, and web lead comes in. We know how important it is to send a text message right away and call them as fast as possible. Appointment confirmation text. So hopefully, Derek, I think you're on here. Hopefully you're okay if I share this with everyone, but you know, definitely have this in your Apple Notes or somewhere on your phone that you can easily copy and paste right away. And then next is, sorry, here I'm trying to navigate through all this. So the upfront contract, I've talked about this in depth. We all know what an upfront contract is, the importance of it. But we did an upfront contract during Sandler, and Heidi did a great job. So what I did here is, this is the breakdown of what upfront contract is. But I do have a link on here that if you want, you can watch Heidi and myself do some role play here. So when you guys want, you can go through it. There's 3 recordings here. Heidi did it twice and I did it once. And I'm going to start to work with a lot of you. And I want to hear your upfront contract, and I want to get recorded, because I think it'd be good if all of us can have access to what all of us are saying. This is the upfront contract on the buy appointment. Okay, so this is the A ton. I appreciate you inviting me out. Typically, the seller's agenda. Obviously, we want to know what our agenda is, and naturally, 1 or 2 things will happen here. So you can click on this link, and appreciate Heidi volunteering. She did an excellent job. She did 2 recordings.
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. I want to thank you for having me out to your home today. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with you. I believe on the phone we said we'd set aside about 45 minutes to an hour. Does that still work for you?
Yeah, that is perfect. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I can make the best use of your time.
So you get the concept there. So I highly encourage you to follow that link. Go through the upfront contract presentation. I think the upfront contract is one of the most important things that we do on the buy appointment. It just sets the tone for the buy appointment. So I have that link there. So I have sent this out to you guys all, but there's another link here that Michael and I put together, a little platform. I had Kaden build this out for me, but these are links to most of our trainings that we've done. So how it works is that you click on a link and it'll direct you to our training. But for you to save it, you want to save it to your browser or your desktop, somewhere where you can have access to it. But this is growing. We put more on here. After this training, we'll add it to here also. But some of the scripts is, I have the buy script on here. You know, I've seen some use the script from corporate. I think it's a great script, but you can compare how this one is different than the one that corporate provides. So there's a script there. And then as you can tell, there's a lot of links here. Like here's the upfront contract. You have two tutorials and you have a PDF and so forth, okay? So make sure that you download this and have access to it, because this is how we're gonna be sharing what we do. Any questions at this point? You guys appreciate the scripts? Okay, one last thing I want to show you guys is we've always stressed the importance of communication from the time we hang up the phone to the time that we go to the appointment. And we've talked about different things that we do before we knock on the door, sending out a text message, sending out an email, sending out a personal note. I have training on that, on how to increase our buying percentage on the small things that can be done from the time that we end the phone call, make the appointment, to the time we knock on the door. And so I've always sent out an email, a text message, but we came up with this. I had Kaden build this out, so I want to show it to you guys all. So now we are sending this out to our sellers in advance. So this can go out in a text message, this can go out on an email, you can you know, Bluetooth it, you can tap phones, it's all high tech. And so this is his. So call, text, email, you can save the contact into your phone. And when you save the contact, it actually uploads all these links to your contact card in your phone. So the person will have access to all these links. So we have how to prepare for our appointment. We have a copy of the purchase contract, testimonials, national reviews, links to YouTube videos that were been on TV. And so we have had a
Where it
great
says
response.
where it says how to prepare for the appointment, that's a video.
Yeah, it takes us to Homevestors.
Oh, to one of their things that says how to prepare for the appointment.
Now, what's awesome about this is customizable. So this is a sample one that Kaden can build out, and you can put any link you want in here. Okay, these are just examples. Now, I suggest that how to prepare for your appointment, you do your own video. You let them know how it works, what to expect. You can do another upfront contract in here, so you can film your own stuff, put a link, and you can do as much as you want to send this out to any sellers. My plan is I'm going to have a link in here to the extent of like, so what happens next? So after we sign the contract, I will direct them back to this platform, and they can watch a video and a checklist of what's going to happen next once we're under contract. So probably not be useful.
Ryan,
What?
your previous approach that I really like, where you had an appointment, you would send out an email or a letter that says, this is what we agreed to, kind of reconfirming the upfront contract. This is what to anticipate when we get together. And, you know, write down 2 or 3 or come up with 2 or 3 things that you want to make sure we accomplish, you know, questions that I can answer. So you're preparing them for that. Are you still doing that in addition to this?
So we just rolled this out within the last week. So no, but this link will be eventually what you just talked about.
Okay, that's what I was asking, because I wonder if somebody, I think that is so powerful, the way that you establish the expectations so that when you show up, the seller's not confused and they don't immediately, let's start walking through the house. The reason that happens for most franchisees is because they have not established or set the right expectations with the seller. So we need to make sure if they, for some reason, they don't click on that, how to prepare for the appointment, you've missed that opportunity. So if this is going to be a contact card embedded in your email, I still think it's a good idea to continue doing what you've done in the past, which is, hey, when we get together, here's what we're going to do. Please come up with the 2 or 3 things beyond the price, other than what, you know, we're going to pay for the house. What other things do you want to know about us or the process? Make sure you have those ready. By the way, here's additional information down below, resources. So I think in the body of your email, you can refer to the links below, but I'd hate to see you or anybody abandon that idea, because I think it's super beneficial and it's proven to work for you in the past. I'd hate to see you let that go.
Yeah, I mean, it could be both. I mean, this is not going to hurt to forward this out to via text message, but the email, and if you go through, I think the presentation on how to increase your buy percentage, it's in that presentation, the email that I send out. So
yeah,
you can back to that. Yeah, no, valid point. You know, this could be useful. It might not. I just want to let you guys know that Kenyon built it up for me. If you have an interest in him doing it for you, this is his pricing here. He's not charging a lot, but he would love to be able to offer this to our group at a discount, see how it works, and then he wants to, you know, push it out to the rest of the franchises. But he wanted me to share this with the PPG group to see if you're interested, and he can build it out with your information. So.
It's super cool. It's professional. It provides uniformity, which is what Homevestors is looking for. It provides all the technology, which is going to be, you know, sexy for the younger group. I would use it as an addition, again, an addition to the email, not a replacement. But I think it's awesome.
And Nick's on here too. Nick Sims. He created one with a different platform and very professional. So I think Nick, you use yours? Do you send yours out?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I still send the email that, you know, I learned from you, Ryan, with all the expectations and the links on there. But then I've been sending this out too, just to see how people react to it. And then I'll ask them, be like, oh, were you able to download my contacts and watch some of the videos? And sometimes it's a test on how, you know, how engaged they are, you know. So if they went on there and they looked at all those links, then I know, all right, they were doing their research. They're trying to figure me out, so I kind of know where I stand.
Good. All right, everyone. Well, I appreciate your time. Does anyone have any questions before I stop the recording regarding scripts?
So are we, is this the end of the call? Were you going to do by appointment stuff in person? Because you talked about, or are you going to save that for another time? Because you talked about the post sale and stuff. Did you want to do that another time?
Yeah, we had the post sale. No, it's just the post sale is left. So I appreciate the reminder, Michael. Yeah, if you want to just briefly talk about the importance of that and what your post sale is and why we should use it and when we should use it.
So we're kind of going from the beginning to the end. So again, everybody that attended Sandler last week got 48 hours of, or 2 full days of, I guess it's 16, 15 hours of Dave Hyatt, the master, doing what we do on the by appointment to do the best there. The final step after the fulfillment, we have the ultimate contract, right? As we're leaving in agreement, then we have the fulfillment where we're telling them all of the things that we do. And that's where we get to beat our chest and be awesome and get a contract signed. And there's the post sale is simply just verifying, validating everything is the way that it's supposed to be. All the expectations are being met. There aren't going to be any surprises. If in the decision process step, we identified family, friends, you know, one of the sons is a contractor and he doesn't think dad should sell it. Any of those things, I've got other appointments that we had lined up. My realtor told me this, any of those kinds of things. When you have the contract is the time you say, all right, and there's different ways to do it. Some people hand it back to them and say, okay, I'm handing this back to you. I want to make sure before you give it to me and this is locked in that there isn't anything out there that we haven't talked about. There isn't anything certain. Okay, great. They hand it to you. Okay, now we're locked and loaded. just want to ask now, when Junior calls you up and says, Dad, you made a mistake, I wanted to buy that house and work on it, what are you going to tell him? Hey, when you call your friends and family and you say, I'm so excited I got this deal done, and they're like, what? You sold it to an investor? You could have gotten way more money. How are you going to handle that? What are you going to say? The post sale is actually another let's pretend. We do a lot of bring the future to the present in Sandler. It's another let's pretend. If anything comes up at any time in your conversation, right, make a note and use that in your post sale to say, okay, just curious, what happens if the neighbor comes across, knocks on your door and says, man, I understand you sold your house. I'll give you more for it. Right. So you want to have that conversation. It solves a lot of problems later. So let me pause and back up. For me, in the contract that I use, it has a breach of contract, right? Most contracts have some kind of obligation for the buyer and seller, and what happens if one of the two parties changes their mind, which isn't allowable according to the law. That's a breach of contract. I call that the Lotto clause, and you guys have heard me say this before. When I get to the breach of contract, I pause and I say, okay, this is what we call the Lotto clause. I'm obligating myself to buy the house. You're obligating yourself to sell it. We understand that? Yes. Okay. If you win the lottery tonight and you call me tomorrow and you say, hey, all my problems have gone away. I don't need to sell my house anymore. Understand, we're still in contract and you still need to sell me the house. Now, I may be willing to mark it up and sell it back to you. And since you're a millionaire, you won't care. And they laugh every single time. They laugh. I have done that hundreds, probably thousands of times, right? The Lotto clause, every single time I sign a contract, every single time without fail, I don't do DocuSign unless I'm doing it with them over the phone. Every single time I do the Lotto clause. So if somebody changes their mind, if somebody gets bad advice, if somebody decides something happens, they call me up and say, oh, you know what? I'm like, oh man, remember the Lotto clause? Every single one of them does. It doesn't mean that it's all going to go away, but 99 out of 100 times, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Sometimes I mark it up and I sell it back to them. 10, 15 grand later, we just sign it over and it's part of the Lotto clause. So I do two things in the post sale. One is during the contract, I make very, very clear our obligations. We play the game of, are you sure? No seller's remorse. We want to make sure that you're good, you're comfortable. There isn't any pressure. You feel good about this. Sleep tonight. Okay, good. And then the last piece is what happens if? Let's pretend tomorrow morning you wake up, you get something, you get the coffee, your brother calls and, something happens, or your realtor calls and says, oh, guess what? I just found a buyer for your house, a retail buyer. I told them that you were looking, right? What are you going to say? What are you going to do? Okay. Now that's all what I've done in the past and how I do it. That would be altered slightly if we end up doing a 3-day right of rescission. We're not there yet, but that may be coming in our future. But that's in a nutshell, the 3 pieces of what I would consider the post-sale process. Starts with writing the contract and setting the expectation, verifying that everything's good, and then closing the loop with, what happens if, how would you handle if, kind of worst case scenario, something happens, then what, right? And I've never had it come back to me and someone say, oh yeah, you're right, never mind. I changed my mind, let me call him and see what he's going to do. That like never happens. I have had people that when I've handed it back to them think, oh, you know what, you're right, I should sleep on it, or I should pray about it. Fine, sleep on it, pray about it. Let's reconnect tomorrow, right? I mean, that's the right thing to do. And I think maybe once or twice in my career I've had them that have not gone, but they have a problem. I can solve the problem. They wanted the problem to go away. If we've done the motivational bucket correctly, that doesn't go away. That doesn't change. And they feel good about us being honest and engaging, listening to them, care about them. So I think that's in a nutshell. Anything else you want me to cover, Ryan?
No, a great job. If you get any hints that they're having doubts or they got to talk to someone or there's a competitor, you need to bring that out and have a discussion. Especially even after you sign the contract, you're walking out the door. You just need to maybe joke about it, just make sure we're all good. So you need to have that honest conversation with them so they don't have remorse. But even if I feel 100% confident, like there's no competition, I know they're selling something to me, I still make a joke before walking out the door. Like I'm literally walking out the door. I'm like, hey, you're not gonna wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, oh crap, what did I do? Like it could be that small of a comment, and you plant that small little seed that they better talk about it now before I walk out that door. So I say 3 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to have regrets with every single person. And if there's competitors, I have that conversation of like, well, what are you going to say? So another great script that you say on every single appointment. It doesn't change. So practice. Practice, practice, practice. Okay. Call us. We'll help you through it. Role play with us. We'd love to hear you guys dial in these handful of scripts. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. You guys did a great job.